Okay, so thank you everyone for coming. My name is Nathan Gubler. I'm the Accounting Applications Manager in Mayor's Financial Administration for Salt Lake County. I've been in this position for, it'll be 2 years next month, and previous to that I was with the Sheriff's Office, and John, I took John Pechtel's position. He's now my supervisor, and so I'm sure he'll be taking copious notes for my evaluation. But anyways, so the topic, come on in, John. The topic of this training, it was going to be about the PeopleSoft Fluid interface, kind of the look and feel of PeopleSoft. And we have since changed that last minute due to various circumstances. So we're just going to kind of do a little bit of a roadmap to start off with, what's coming up in PeopleSoft as far as projects that we're working on and we'll be integrating, and then we'll talk a little bit about biweekly payroll and how we'll feel the effect of that in the financials, and some things that we're going to do to help the rest of us with monthly reporting for that. And then we'll talk about budget checking and the errors that come up with that and things that you can do as a user to resolve those on your own. Before we begin, though, did you guys have anything that you wanted in particular to get out of this session? Javed? Yes. So the question is, do we have a list of queries compiled and posted somewhere that you can go find? Yes. Okay. Absolutely. On the Mayor's Financial website, there is a list that we update. John, what is the name of that list? It's pretty intuitive. Queries and PeopleSoft. A list of financial reports and queries. And that's on the Mayor's Finance Internet site. Awesome, good question. Any other questions, thoughts? Varden? No, actually, yeah, that's a good point. So this is for PeopleSoft Financials, not HCM. Are you referring to the queries or, the queries? Yeah, so for PeopleSoft Financials only, those are the queries we have posted. So you have to contact a member of the payroll team to get those, if they have them. So, okay. Let's jump right in then. So, shameless plug for, oh, you guys can't see, can you? Let's go ahead and turn that off. Okay. So here are the upcoming trainings that we're doing for PeopleSoft. We've actually, I think we have 40 people signed up for each of them. We have one person waitlisted, but we'll get them in. So if any of you all are interested in these topics, talk to me afterwards or email me and we can absolutely get you in. We want to be able to accommodate as many users as possible. The one about PeopleSoft data, we're going to talk about a little bit about reports, where to find them, how to access them, what we currently have available as far as getting data out of PeopleSoft and into Excel, and just kind of a crash course, like a 101 course, where to find it. And then for fourth quarter, we'll be doing pivot grids. We'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. So this is the roadmap for PeopleSoft, the upcoming future. And on the far left, we have the most current, and then we go, and it kind of goes forward into time. We're going to start backwards and talk a little bit about what's happening next summer with our PeopleSoft upgrade. So last year, we did a PeopleSoft upgrade to upgrade both the look of PeopleSoft and the behind the scenes of PeopleSoft and how it runs. And that was the first upgrade we had done since we went live with PeopleSoft. So there's a lot of effort and testing going on and a lot of features that became available because of that upgrade. Since then, we've decided every year we want to do an upgrade, and every 2 years we'll do more or less of a major upgrade, which would just require a little bit more effort on our end. So this year it's more of a light upgrade, and next summer it's going to be a little bit more intensive. So next summer we have we want to come out with changing the navigation and look of PeopleSoft to Fluid. So currently PeopleSoft uses the breadcrumb navigation at the top, and you drill down into folders to get to your landing page where you ultimately click and it takes you there. So in general, the landing pages with the Fluid look will be the same. However, the navigation to get there will be slightly different. So as you can see kind of in the pictures, it's more of a tile-based look, similar to a smartphone or tablet. And the idea of this new interface is to take the user's experience from one device to the next device and kind of make it seamless. So where on the desktop you can have several rows of tiles, but when you log in on your phone, it's going to optimize the layout and maybe switch to like a single column tile. So it's a lot easier to navigate around. Because I don't know if you've noticed, if you've logged in on your phone before, especially with like HCM, you log in on this small screen, but you get everything you would as if you're going to log into on a computer. You got to really zoom in and to get where you want to be. So Fluid will help assist with that obstacle. And I don't think it's too early to start exposing and talking about it now, because this is a change that, again, it's going to be happening next summer. And Oracle, to make to make it short of the long story here, Oracle is going to start discontinuing support to the classic pages which we currently have once they develop a Fluid page. And so we'll have limited support if we stay on this classic navigation. So come on in, Tiggy. Anyway, so this is what a home page would look like. And then I've kind of zoomed up a little bit on the navigation. You have tiles, and each one of these tiles will just take you to a landing page. If you want to navigate around, kind of use like the old our current breadcrumb system, you would go up to the top right and you have this, it's called the nav bar, and there's a circle, it's a compass in the very top right icon there. When you click on it, you get this drop down menu you see in the center of the screen, and it has all the menu items just like you would see it currently in the main menu. And then you just kind of click and go from there to get to your landing page. So we still have that that navigation, but it's just located a little bit differently. But overall, I feel like it's a good enhancement and a good direction for us to head. You also will maintain your favorites. And anyways, we're still working out the details, but this is kind of just a little sneak preview for it. We haven't determined that yet, but we will see. It's a good suggestion. Okay, so again, we're started in the future and coming back to the present, but the next thing we're going functionality that we're trying to develop in PeopleSoft that will be coming out at the end of this year is pivot grids. And so currently we have scheduled, like we talked about, to do some training on pivot grids. What that is it's a reporting tool in PeopleSoft where you can view the data more visually, and it can be a little bit more interactive than just downloading it to a spreadsheet and bringing it into Excel. So it gives you an opportunity to You can. What we plan to do is develop queries that you can run pivot grids off of for your specific organizations, and you can slice and dice it the way that you want to see data the way that makes sense for you. And so you can add filters to it and take filters off. There's drag and drop options, which makes it simple. You can choose different types of visuals, bar graphs and line graphs and all sorts of things. So in general, it's kind of PeopleSoft's analytics is what they call it. It's trying to be a little bit more progressive in the way we see our reports. So it's kind of a supplementary to our official monthly reports, but this is custom. Each user can build a pivot grid the way they want to see it. And we're going to try to develop some standard ones that users can use and adapt to their organizations. And anyways, so that's coming down the pike. And then fall of this year, we're going to be working on the Interim Budget Adjustment Form. So what this is our first phase and effort of this form. It's an electronic form in PeopleSoft, and its purpose is to be a vehicle to move the current interim budget adjustment form or worksheet through the approval process. And so what we've done in a test environment is we've created the budget adjustment workflow framework, and we've developed a form to be able to move the current workbook through. So some of the highlights of this is it only currently will just collect signatures right now, electronic signatures. The form itself, it's just going to provide a summary of what the budget adjustment is intended to do and what you're uploading to this form. I say upload because what you'll do is you'll end up attaching your budget adjustment form to the PeopleSoft form. It'll send email notifications to approvers to approve it in PeopleSoft. An approver and preparer, they can monitor and track the progress of the budget adjustment form, which I feel is a pretty big deal. There's a pushback feature. You can add additional reviewers or reviewers, or approvers or reviewers, and I think one of the biggest benefits we have moving the budget adjustment form into PeopleSoft is I think we're going to save Gabe a lot of money on the shoes, his shoes allowance. Anyways, it'll save him a lot of time running around. Yeah. So currently all this is doing is you'll fill out the current budget adjustment form, the workbook, and you will attach it to this. So no, so what this is I'll zoom in here. So what this does is this form is just, these fields are just key fields that summarize what the budget adjustment form is about, so that the preparer can look at it real quick and know the contents of the actual budget form. We still haven't worked through all the kinks. This is kind of our initial thoughts and stage. So like I said, there's a tab. That third tab is attachments, and you'll go ahead and you'll find and you'll attach and upload the form that we currently use onto this electronic form just to collect signatures. It's pretty similar to the journal entry approval workflow we have. So once you submit it, you'll see a list of appropriate approvers based on your organization and also the content of the budget adjustment. Some of those key fields will ask you if it's related to facilities and needs approval for that, or if it's related to X, Y, and Z. And so based on the input on the electronic form, it's going to populate the correct routing for approval. Anyways, this has been a fun project to work on. We're excited to pick up on it after we finish our current effort in PeopleSoft. And the current effort we've been working on is the upgrade that's going to be rolling out in the middle of next month. And like I said earlier, since this one wasn't a major upgrade, there's not a lot of features. But before I move on, Job, did you have a question, comment? Yeah. So, okay, I'm coming back here. So you said, right. So, yeah, so the person who prepares the form and any approver who approves it, they can go in and to monitor its progress. Once it's been approved, they can go in and take a look at the form as well still. Does that answer your question? Okay. So there's not a lot of new functionality for users this upgrade for the area that I'm responsible for. Tiggy may have some for her area. I'm not sure. But for in the billing module, first of all, I put a lot of time into making sure this was exciting. So I have like the bug is really relevant because in PeopleSoft, there's a lot of bugs. And when we do these upgrades, they're providing bug fixes. So I felt it was appropriate that maybe I should have put a shoe over the bug because we're really getting rid of bugs with this upgrade. But one of the things with billing, previously we're not able to, or currently we're not able to delete bills out of the system. We can just put it in canceled status. There's a feature that will allow us to delete canceled bills. So that way it'll kind of clean up your business unit of all the bills that you have sitting out there. And the way that you do that is you've got the navigation here to go. Once we go live with it, this is the navigation to get there. And you do it by business unit. And so it makes sense to let you all have the security to do that. However, one caution I would give is I know there's several organizations who will sometimes and occasionally use the SOC01 business unit. So just be careful when you go into delete bills from there. You don't just check the select all. You just go into the invoice that you want to delete and go ahead and delete it. But overall, I think it's a worthwhile feature. I just wanted to mention that from our current efforts that we're working on. So currently we plan to go live is July 17th, I believe, is a Monday. We handed over the afternoon of the 14th, which is a Friday. So come Monday, that following Monday, we'll have an upgraded new system. You probably won't, you may recognize slight changes on pages, but it won't be a drastic change. We'll wait for next summer with that fluid interface. So Tiggy just wanted to clarify that I'm just speaking to the mic because we're recording this. So Tiggy mentioned that Friday the 13th in the afternoon, probably 2:30ish, we'll be handing the system over and they will take it down. This is the PeopleSoft financial system. So just be aware of that. Like she said, there will be notification and communication sent out that will happen probably the day before and the day of, if not earlier. So let's just plan for that. So lastly, just want to go over how to troubleshoot budget errors in PeopleSoft. So when you're doing any kind of transaction, just to review, whenever you process a transaction, it's going to check it for two things. The first thing, it's going to do an edit check, and that consists of making sure that you have the correct department with the correct fund, making sure that you're including a bud ref on the transaction, and making sure that the accounting string is the way it should be. And then the second process is the budget checking process. So then it takes that accounting string that's now valid and it goes to the budget tables in PeopleSoft to verify that indeed there is budget for that accounting stream that you have. Oftentimes you'll get a journal status of a V. I didn't highlight that, but that's a valid status. So the combination of the chart fields is correct. However, you get an error message for the budget. And when you click on that, it'll pop up and show you the exceptions that you're getting. This was a common one. This is one of the common ones. No budget exists. Note that it references a ledger group. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about ledger groups, and then we can come back to see how we can troubleshoot. So if we step away for a second and take a look at budget groups and what those are, budget ledger groups. What those are those are the tables in PeopleSoft that hold the budget. And there's several different ledger groups, but the ones I want to focus on today is going to be the SL Prop, the SL Detail, and SL Cap Det. I found when I troubleshoot that those are the most common ones I'm going to, so I'm going to share a little bit about it with you. So the SL Approp, that summarizes your budget by organization, all the subdepartments in organizations, and all accounts within appropriations. It has a child ledger, which is the SL Detail. The SL Detail, like its name, it shows the detail for all subdepartments in an organization and all accounts and appropriation. So at that level, you'll find all the information by subdepartment and account. But at the SL Prop level, that's controlled by the organization. It's all rolled up into the organization and appropriation. So it's a summary of the detail. So if we look at a report here, it says obligations versus budget report. So the SL Prop is really showing us kind of our total for the organization by appropriation. That's the data that's stored there. Then the SL Detail, it's going to show us all the accounts in appropriation that are within a subdepartment. So you can go there to look for a specific subdepartment. Okay, I feel like I may have lost myself in that. What questions do you guys have? Try not to go too deep into that. Okay, come up to me after if you have questions. So the SL Cap Det. Yes. Uh-huh.
So is it checking each one of those ledgers to see if this is where the budget error is, or is it just get the top appropriation level budget?
So the best answer I can give you, it's going to look at the most appropriate ledger, which is a vague answer. And so it could get complicated, but I'm just going to maybe leave it at that. Does that make sense? I'm not an expert by any means in commitment control, so. As John says, it depends on the specific budget area you get.
Because when we set a budget, we go into do a JV, right? We're not picking what ledger we're hitting, right? We just put the date and.
Right. When you enter a journal.
Types of budget errors you can get are chart fields. There's no budget for that chart field, that string that you put in. That's a no budget exists type of error. You could get an over budget that exceeds appropriation type of budget error. So just various types of budget errors.
There's also something we set up called a rule set, where we identify if the organization itself has to do
So we've had a lot of discussion. I just want to repeat for our viewers who aren't here. I said viewers, but it's really users, right? Okay, the laugh sign went up. No one laughed. Okay, so just to kind of recap, so Robert had the question of what ledger are certain transactions hitting more or less, and so the answer is based on different there's different budget errors that you can get. The most common are no budget exists, or budget exceeds out of bounds, or exceeds tolerance. And Gabe's just explained a little bit about additional controls we have for capital project organizations. Let's go ahead and talk about that. We're here, so the SL cap detail is the appropriation for budgets for capital for organizations that are designated to be for capital projects, and so that information is summarized by the capital project organization and their respective projects. So their budget's controlled by the project within that capital project organization. I'm going to revise this description because that's rather vague. Like Gabe said, there's actual special controls that he has that specifies which capital project organization is paired with with their appropriate projects, and that way we don't exceed the overall organization's budget, more or less. Okay, any lingering thoughts on budget ledger groups or anything that I got incorrect? Okay. All right, so we've had an error and it says no budget exists. So I just kind of condensed it to 3 places you can look. The first one we're going to take a look at is the budget overview page in PeopleSoft. I believe users have access to this page if they have access to process journal entries and other transactions. So let's talk about an example with the SL Approp. We get an error message with the SL Approp in it. So we're going to zoom in here. So here's the breadcrumbs for it. And this is going to be the page after you run the report, what it looks like. And then we'll go back and we'll talk about setting up the run control to be able to see this page like this. So essentially what I've done is I've created parameters for the 1025 organization. And I've looked at all the appropriation, the budgeted amount for each appropriation in that organization. And it shows us for 2018 by appropriation how much has been budgeted. And then the nice thing about this is it also shows us transactions in the system, whether it be requisition or journal entry, that's actually obligated that budget in the expense column. You can actually click on the expense. This is a hyperlinked number on the page, and you can drill down to see what documents have obligated funds, essentially. So to get to that page, you'll have to set up a run control. Run controls in PeopleSoft, you usually enter in parameters and you click the run button and it will populate a report or page based on those parameters. So some of the things that you'll want to be aware of, you can just go ahead. I set it up. I called mine SL Approp. And the only things that I changed in here is I made sure that I changed the ledger group to be the ledger group that I wanted to look at, so the SL Approp. So the thought is I'm just looking at overall summary figures by organization and by appropriation. And I came down here, I made sure my budget period was a relevant period for what I was looking at. And then I first came down and I put in my organization range, really is what this is, because the SL Approp only has summary information at the organization level. But I went ahead and did a range just to make sure I got everything in my organization. And then the account is actually the appropriation. So 000100, that's the salary and benefits appropriation. And then I went through the very last appropriation we have, 009, well, 3 zeros, and then 9 and 2 zeros. And I believe that's the other appropriation. Yep. John made the comment that these percent signs are wildcards in PeopleSoft. And what they do is it tells the value to pick up any value that I could click on the drop down and select. So it's really saying, so what we could do, like John said, for account, we could just leave this as a percent sign through percent sign. So it'll give us all the available appropriations in this context for this organization. Wildcards, just as a side note, you can use those when you're searching for anything, like when you're searching for journal entries. Sometimes you'll have there's a drop-down box that you can search that says contains, and then you can type in whatever you want. Instead of doing contains, you can just leave it as begins with, and I just use percent sign and then type whatever in I want, and it really means contains. So I don't know if that's useful for anyone. I thought I would share it. I'm kind of a geek about things like that. It just really gets me excited. I don't know. So if you notice here, we didn't specify the fund that this org was in. We just said, give us all the funds associated that have budget in here for this organization. Okay, so after I set that up, that's how we got to this page, which gave us and broke out our summary information. And again, we could drill down using the expense column to transactions that have already hit our budget in PeopleSoft. Okay, so let's look at the SL Cap DEET using the budget overview page. So let's go ahead and jump the run control first. So I created a separate run control for this one and named it that specifically. You don't have to, you can use the same one. You just would have to know you need to update everything in it. So I created a separate one. I identified the ledger group as SL Cap DEET. I made sure that my budget periods were accurate. The only thing I came down here and did was I left everything as wildcards, and I just filtered by my department IDs. So as was mentioned earlier, we have the designated capital project organizations that begin with, usually has 4 numbers and then a 99 and the rest is zeros. And so I went ahead and picked a capital project organization, and I did the to, from, and to value as that. And then, and this is what it gave us. Now, as a side note, I didn't mention in the other slide, it'll show you this, it'll give you totals for what the total budget is for the parameters you've entered, the expenses that have hit so far, and it kind of gives you what you have remaining. So that's pretty useful. But if you come down here, you just notice it's giving us now the budget information by this capital organization, capital project organization, and then it will list all the projects that have budget with it. And those look like they're one and the same. And they indeed are. But it looks like it put the budget in on one line, and then the expenses are hitting on another. Again, you can actuals. Thank you. Actuals are hitting on another line. So again, you can go down and drill down to see the detail of why it's showing up there. Okay, so that was it for the budget overview page. That's one that I commonly use when I get questions on errors from users. I jump to this page immediately and start researching. Another page that's common is the budget details page. This one's pretty simple. It does not require it doesn't require run control. If you use this breadcrumbs, the landing page, it will just prompt you for, it has the business unit filled out, and it will prompt you for a ledger group. So I went ahead, I took the liberty to look at the SL detail. And again, the SL detail holds all the detailed information by subdepartment and by account for any organization. So I've typed in my accounting information, my fund, department. I want to look at budget for this specific account, and then this reference period, this budget period, this bud ref. When we do that, this was what was populated. We get the budget details box, and what this is telling me is that this is a valid combination. This accounting combination has budget for it, for what I've specified. When you click on the View Details link, it'll bring you up to a page kind of similar to the last one, and it will summarize the budget for that account, the expense that you've used in it, etc. So that's a pretty simple way also to make sure that the accounting string that you've entered in on your journal or PO or requisition, that it's correct. You can come in and type it in here the way you've typed it in your document. If it doesn't show up, then you may have some issues. Yes, Siggy? Okay, Tiggy made a very valuable comment. On this page, we have this column that you can click on the icon, and it will drill down to, for example, by line, to detail transactions, and will show you where it's obligated the budget, or when. If we clicked on the budget line, it shows the budget journal that came in. It's not really valuable. But when you come down to expenses and encumbrances and pre-encumbrances, it's going to show you how it was obligated. Okay, thank you. Okay, the last one, we have BI Publisher reports that will show budget to actual information. So this specific report, it's one of our newer reports, so I just want to let you be aware of it. It's the PB610, and it shows the capital project organizations by and it's sorted by their projects, and it will give you the information as far as available budget, what's been spent, etc. for those capital project organizations. So that's another tool you can use. You can run it ad hoc. I believe we run it monthly and post it to Page Center X. But you can also run it anytime. That's the MFA PB610. Okay, we've reached the end here. Are there any questions before we recap? Okay. So takeaways for this, we talked about the PeopleSoft Roadmap and the upcoming projects we're working on, and when to expect them in PeopleSoft. We have a PeopleSoft image upgrade we're currently working on that will be finished in the middle of July. The interim budget adjustment form, we anticipate bringing it to production fall of this year. At the end of the year, we'll have the pivot grid feature hopefully developed so that end users can customize and see their data by specific by their user preference. And then next summer for our upgrade, we're going to have our current classic style menu navigation and look will be replaced with the fluid navigation and look. We talked a little bit about the effect of biweekly payroll in the financial system and the accrual entries that we'll make to help with month-end reporting. And we've discussed troubleshooting budget errors a little bit and talking about resources that are available for us in PeopleSoft. Any lingering questions before we finish? Okay, well, feel free to call or email or come up to me afterwards if you ever have any questions. Thank you.